It's my great pleasure to introduce Rev Richard Trickel, who has served as Chief Executive Officer of the City Mission since August of 2004. Rich has extensive ministry experience which spans over 35 years and a primary focus on urban ministry, poverty, and homelessness. As leader of one of Cleveland's oldest and most vibrant not-for-profits, he offers unique perspective on the needs in an urban community and understands the important role service organizations play in transforming lives. He holds a diploma in Bible and missions, a BA in communications, and an MS in administrative leadership and adult education. We are very pleased that Reverend Trickel could be with us and share his message about homeless families and faith in action. He is a courageous advocate and has formed a task force to examine and repair a broken system serving the women and children in our community. He has challenged the status quo and institutions, demanding an end to a system as it exists, looking for a compassionate, permanent solution. Andrew Jackson said, "One man with courage makes a majority." So I'd like to introduce to you the majority, Reverend Trickel.
Well, David, thank you very much. Before we begin, there's one very critical piece of unfinished business that we need to attend to. If you have not heard, the final score of the Indians game was 5-3. Cleveland won. That's 21 in a row. So maybe that's enough. I'm not sure, but it's a great way to start, isn't it? Well, I do want to thank the Community West Foundation very much for this opportunity to come here and speak and to share some things with you. And on a personal note, and speaking on behalf of the City Mission, I also have to thank the Community West Foundation for their support over the years. They have been a great partner with us. They've stood with us for many, many years, and we're very, very, very grateful for that. You know, this is a great time to be in Cleveland, isn't it? I mean, you think about what's happening in our city and all of the wonderful things that have gone on. What a great time. And of course, you have to go back just 1 year to 2016 to begin and to look back and to see some of the things that we've experienced, beginning all the way back with the championship that the Cavs brought here, that wonderful parade that we had downtown. Remember that? I was standing right on the corner of 9th and Carnegie, wherever it was. And the streets were filled with people, and the convertible kind of came around the corner, and there's LeBron sitting on the back. The car was flooded with people, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, where are the police? And he just kind of moved all the way through the crowd without incident. Where else could something like that happen but Cleveland? And then, of course, the Indians last season, and not to mention what's going on right now, but that wonderful World Series stretch. Oh, so close, right, all the way to Game 7. We thought they were going to do it, and they almost did. What a tremendous opportunity. And then the convention. Whoever would have thought that you could have the Republicans storm into Cleveland at this particular time, have their convention here for all of those days, and not one incident. What a city. What an opportunity to be here. And you know, through all of that, and as a result of all of that, 11 new hotels have sprung up in our city. Nearly 40 restaurants have sprung up in our city in just the last couple of years. You look around our town and things are booming everywhere. The Flats, University Circle, East 4th, Ohio City, Gordon Square, Playhouse Square, everywhere you look, things are booming. One of the most encouraging things I've seen is just watching the media and beginning to see the articles that are popping not just in Cleveland, but around the country. In fact, October 7th, 2016, of all magazines, Forbes magazine had this byline: "Why Cleveland is America's hottest city right now." Well, that's really something. What a time to be in Cleveland. Everywhere you look, things are booming. Well, not everywhere. Not everywhere. You know, it was just about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, in the midst of the chaos of Hurricane Harvey, I was in my bedroom getting ready to leave for the day, and I had the television on. And so I was busy, dressing and doing the things that you do, and the TV was on, and I was listening while I was getting ready. And as I was getting ready, the announcer said this, and it stopped me dead in my tracks. This is what she said. You can't live in a gym for a month. She was referring to the people that have fled into these shelters, because she was standing in one of those large facilities. She said, you can't live in a gym for a month. These kids need a home. The reason that made such an impression upon me is because at that very moment, the gymnasium at the City Mission was filled with homeless women and children. Cleveland is facing a crisis. September 16th, 2016, Brian Davis, a former CEO of NEOC, wrote these words in a blog that he published on their blog site. Family homelessness is out of control locally. This is the worst we have seen for families in 30 years. If you pay attention to this at all, and you look around, you'll realize, and you probably know, that in the last 6 to 8 years, Cleveland has lost over 440 beds, shelter beds, in our city. A number of those beds were dedicated to women and children. In addition to that, there was a time in our city, and you have to go back a ways to see this, there was a time in our city where the faith community led the charge. They were out front, and they opened up their gymnasiums and their fellowship halls and their auditoriums, and they took in the homeless families that needed shelter in our cities. Not so much anymore. All of that is gone. There was a time when, as a community, we stepped forward in a much more aggressive way and cared for the most vulnerable among us. Not so much anymore. We're a city in crisis. But this is the problem. The crisis I'm speaking about, and I need to clarify just one thing for you. When I use the word family, it's not what's popping into your head. Please don't envision a nice picture, of a mom and a dad and 2 little toddlers and a dog and 3 cats on the driveway. That is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a mother and her children. So when I use the word family, please listen to what I'm saying. A mom and her kids. That's it. The crisis that I'm speaking about, family homelessness in our town, it's relatively invisible. No one is particularly paying attention. But I will tell you this, it is destroying the lives of the most vulnerable among us. So what do we know? Well, a couple of weeks ago, Linda Uvegas, the chief operating officer of the City Mission, and myself decided we would try to understand just a little more clearly what the picture was in this city. So we got together one by one with all of the major providers of families, providing families for family homelessness in our city. We had 4 meetings. And as we sat with each of those individuals, we only asked them 2 questions. Question number 1, what are you doing right now to care for families? Now, we already knew that answer, but we wanted to be certain. So what they told us was exactly what we expected. We understood the number of beds. We knew what was going on. This was the bigger question. What do you understand about the overall crisis in our city as it relates to family homelessness? What do you know? This is what they said, every single one of them. We really don't know much. In fact, and this is what surprised me, you guys know, you meaning the City Mission, you know better than anyone. You know the numbers. You have a better idea than anyone of what really is going on. Now, I really did not expect that, but I thought, well, okay, so why don't I just back up just a little bit and look at what we know. So I want to tell you what we know. and what we're seeing. The City Mission operates a facility on the near west side. It's called Loris Home. It's our facility for women and children. That building has 166 beds, 55 rooms for families, for women and families. Loris Home has been running at absolute capacity for years. For years. There is no room. Now that's one story, but this is the bigger story. Every day, and we are the only facility in town that has this issue because of the way the system works, every day, Loris Home receives a number of phone calls from mothers with children and single women calling Loris Home and wanting to get in. They have nowhere to go. They're looking for a bed, so they call Loris Home. Now this is what we're facing, and I'm giving you monthly averages. And what you need to understand is when I tell you these numbers, I'm talking about phone calls, all right? On a monthly average, 374 mothers call Loris Home, wanting to get in. 379 single women call Loris Home, wanting to get in. Those 374 mothers have together 776 children they want to bring with them. And of that number, 87 of those women are pregnant. Those are phone calls calling our facility on a monthly average, month after month after month after month, looking for shelter. And you know what the answer is? I'm sorry, we are full. You've got to call back again tomorrow. So this is what's happened at the county. The county has experienced a similar problem. So you have all of these mothers with children showing up at central intake needing shelter. So they show up there, they're talked to there, the county has their questions with them, and then the point is they're supposed to distribute them to one of the existing facilities. There's only 4, there's only 3 besides the mission that takes them. The problem is this: those facilities, whether it's Westside Catholic, whether it's Harbor Light, whether it's Family Promise, whether whomever it is, they are all full. So as these women started to show up, there was nowhere for them to go. So going back a year, what the county chose to do, because they had nowhere for them to go, was send some of these moms and kids to Norma Herr, the county-run facility for women or for single women. Now, they had no other option. They sent some of them there, a terrible circumstance. Norma Herr is no place for children. They did not know what to do. We heard about that, so the City Mission said, listen, we have a gym. Send them to our gym. Last year, September 2016, the county began to send homeless moms with their children, because there was nowhere else for them to go, to the gym at the City Mission. Last month, in August, we provided 336 bed nights for women in our gym. We provided 680 bed nights for children in our gym. That totals 1,016 bed nights in our gym for homeless women and children. Now, to give you just a little bit of an idea regarding the scope of this problem, if I take you back 1 year to when this began in our gym, September 2016. Last September, we provided, during the month of September, a total of 71 bed nights. I'm saying bed nights because we don't always understand how many of those are unique individuals. Hard to count that sometimes. 71 bed nights, September 2016. Advance with me 1 year to August 2017. That number, 71, has now grown to 1,016 bed nights. Now I'll tell you, it's because of this that when I hear the reports that homelessness is decreasing in our city and in our country, it makes me just a little bit upset. I'm wondering, what in the round world are you looking at? Who are you talking to? Because what I'm seeing on the street is a dramatic increase. We have a crisis in our city regarding family homelessness. You know, one of the clearest indicators to me is to watch what is happening in our school system. Thank goodness for the Cleveland Metropolitan School System and Project ACT. They do a wonderful job of keeping track of who's in that system. And what they told us is this. In 2016, they identified in our schools 2,646 homeless children. Now, this is the bigger number and the most serious number to me. Of that 2,646 homeless children, 1,788 of those kids are reported as being doubled up. Now, what that means is those children are not in the system. They're homeless, but they're not in a facility somewhere. They're spread out throughout our city with their moms couch surfing. Maybe they're staying with a friend, maybe they're staying with a grandma, maybe they're staying, who knows where they're staying. They're just floating around out there. Now, if you take, and I'm sorry for all these stats, and I'll quit with the stats in just a second, but you've got to get a scope of what's going on here. If you take an average family, a mom with 2 kids, just to give us some kind of a concept, and you do some math, I'm not very good at math, but I can do this, and you take that number and you divide it into 1,788, what you find out is probably, very conservatively speaking, there's 800, 900 homeless families in our city right now, all floating around out there, just couch surfing. No certain dwelling place at all. We have a crisis in our city. I want to tell you just a short little story about one family that I know about. Several years ago, a mom and her 4 children came to our facility at Laura's home. Now, this particular mom, growing up as a child, was abused by her father. She grew up, she became a woman, and she married. It wasn't very long when that same woman was abused by her husband. So after sustained abuse in that family situation, she decided to leave the home for her own safety. Now I'm going to give you her words. This is what she said. I filed for divorce. I was all alone with 4 kids on the street in a car, taking showers at Target in the bathrooms. My kids did not even go to school. I didn't want to go on. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have anybody. And I didn't even think I had myself. I wanted to die and take my kids with me. At that point, thank God, at that point, a Cleveland police officer saw her car late one night, parked in a quiet, dark place of our city. And he approached her vehicle, and he knocked on her window, and he saw the kids, and he asked her, "What's wrong? What are you doing? Why are you out here?" And she told him. And he directed her to Laura's home. And for some reason, I'm still not quite certain what happened, there was room for her, and we took her in and kept her. And she worked at Laura's home with us for about a year, and today she is safely housed in her own home with her family. But I want to tell you folks, that story is replicated over and over and over and over again. You know, as you think about all of this, this is the reality. Cleveland is a compassionate town, isn't it? Cleveland is a compassionate town. Our city is inspired and it's led by men and women of faith. The major providers of the services in our town are all faith-based providers. The City Mission, Westside Catholic, Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries, the Salvation Army, these are all faith-based organizations. They are inspired and they are motivated by their faith, their commitment to faith, and they are reaching out and they are caring for the most vulnerable among us. And not only that, but all of those organizations are fueled and they're run by hundreds and hundreds of volunteers that stream out of all of the churches in our communities. Cleveland is an unbelievably compassionate town. And the giving, the money that flows. Now, I can only speak with any degree of knowledge about what happens at the City Mission, but I'll tell you this. For over 106 years, the City Mission has been supported solely by dollars that come from individuals and foundations, no government funds. What an unbelievably generous community. But I'll tell you this. Folks, we have to do more. And there are just several things I want to mention to you this afternoon. Number one, we have got to understand a couple of things. And here they are. Homelessness is a complex, multifaceted problem. Domestic violence, addiction, mental illness, incarceration, poverty, unemployment, affordable housing are all factors that lead into this issue. Regardless of what you're hearing, regardless of what the reports are, there is no one silver bullet that's going to end this issue. Homelessness is an incredibly complex, multifaceted problem. Secondly, homelessness is primarily a relational, not a financial problem. Homelessness is primarily a relational, not a financial problem. People do not become homeless when they run out of money. They become homeless when they run out of relationships. Homelessness is primarily a relational, not a financial problem. And thirdly, homelessness is a long-term, ongoing societal concern. I'll tell you, folks, we can't build our way out of it. We can't spend our way out of it. We cannot create more government programs to program our way out of it. It's a long-term societal problem. But not only must we understand some things, we've got to acknowledge a few as well. Number one, we have a spiritual and a moral obligation to engage in this incredibly complex issue. Spiritually, it is the godly thing to do. Deuteronomy chapter 15, verse number 11 says this, "For there will never cease to be poor in the land. Therefore, I command you, you shall open wide your hand to your brother, to the needy, and to the poor in your land." Engaging with this crisis population is the godly thing to do. But secondly, it's the right thing to do. Morally, it is the right thing to do. You know, before I came just yesterday, I thought, I just need to see something. So I map quested our location right here, right down to the center of the crisis, Ward 5. And you know what? We are sitting right now in our seats 17 miles. 17 miles from the epicenter of everything I'm talking about. 17 miles. You know, you don't need a passport to get there. You don't have to save up to get there. We can hop in our cars right after this meeting, and in about 20 minutes, we can go right to the center of the crisis. 17 miles from where we're sitting. It is the right thing to do to make certain that people 17 miles from us have enough to eat tonight. It is the right thing to do to make certain that people 17 miles from where we're sitting right now can sleep safely tonight. It is the right thing to do to make certain that children 17 miles from where we're sitting right now can play safely this afternoon without fear of gunshots and violence on their playground. We need to understand some things. We need to acknowledge some things. And we must respond. We need to engage relationally. We need to give sacrificially. And we need to advocate passionately. I don't know if you're following this, but I think it's been about a month ago. The Plain Dealer began a series entitled The Greater Cleveland. And in that article, it's an unbelievable thing what they're doing. I'm so grateful for what they're doing. In this series, they are tracking a number of children and their families that are living in the King Kennedy public housing development. If you don't know where that is, you just go to the corner of 55th and Carnegie and hang a right and go down about a half a mile, and right on the east side of 55th Street, you'll enter into the King Kennedy area. And in the Sunday, September 3rd article, they had a series of articles about a mom. Her name is Mary, and her family. And I'm going to read just some excerpts from one of the articles that they wrote about Mary. This is what they wrote. This is Mary's experience. Mary saw her first dead body before she even reached kindergarten. The man had been shot dead in front of her family's unit in King Kennedy. At age 7, Mary looked out her window and witnessed the unimaginable. In a fit of rage, the man snatched a baby from the woman's arms, laid it on a gently sloping hillside, and ran over it numerous times with his car, killing the infant while the hysterical mother wailed in horror. At age 12, Mary and her mother moved to Outhwaite Estates. Outhwaite Estates, who in the world thought of that name? Have you been there? She moved to Outhwaite Estates, another public housing complex. A year later, her best friend's boyfriend was killed over a dispute with a neighbor. Insults between the neighbors gave way to a physical fight, and then a gunshot. Mary spun around to see the barrel of a gun pressed against the forehead of her friend's boyfriend. Another shot was fired. His body dropped like a felled tree, 17 miles away from where we're sitting right now. You know, when you pull back the curtain and you stick your head in and look, it's hard to believe that what I've just described goes on in the city of Cleveland. Every day, there are women and children living in a chaotic, violent, destructive environment. They're there, 17 miles away. I believe now is the time. I believe today is the day. I believe that if the faith community in Cleveland stood up together, kind of lay aside all those stupid little things that separate us and divide us and aggravate us about one another, and just rose up together and decided together that enough is enough. Someone must engage the most vulnerable among us. It is absolutely unbelievable to me that in a city like Cleveland, we can have scores of women and children showing up every day at our county offices, and they say to them, "We have nowhere for you to go. Go to the gym." And if any of you are interested, I will gladly take you there tonight about 7:30 when the bus pulls in, and this is their situation. Now there's a lot of you moms out here today, I'm sure, with little children. Guess what? Just think if this is your deal. You get on the bus with your little kids at 7 o'clock at night because you've been standing outside at the Bishop Cosgrove Center because you have nowhere else to go. And that bus takes you to the gymnasium at the City Mission, and you get off that bus and you filter into the gym, and you go over there to the corner and you grab your mattress. And you go over there and there's some bedding, and you grab that bedding and you spread it out, and all around our gym are mattresses and families camped out for the night. And you try to get a night's sleep in that environment, and then about 7 o'clock in the morning, the bus comes back, and you filter on that bus, and the bus takes you back to the Bishop Cosgrove Center, praise God for the Bishop Cosgrove Center, and you wait out there until 8 o'clock in the morning when they open, and then you toddle into their cafeteria with your children, and you're there for the day until the bus shows up at night and takes you back to the gym. That is your experience. Can you even imagine that? Day after day after day after day. I think it's time that as men and women of faith, we said that's enough. I don't even want to go camping, for goodness sakes, much less go through an experience like that. Are you kidding me? It's enough. It's enough. We need to stand up together and put an end to this madness. There are a group of men and women that have decided to do something about that. A number of months ago, a task force has been formed, the Homeless Women and Children Task Force. A call went out to the faith community in our city about 3 or 4 months ago. A forum was held on the campus of the City Mission. About 100 people came. 8,000 were invited, by the way. And as a result of that forum, we issued a call, please come with us and let's do something about this. 33 people took up the challenge, and they're meeting together. We've met 2 times. The third meeting is Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, on the campus of the City Mission. You're all invited. If you'd like to engage, that's the place. Come with us. Sit with us. We're wrestling with this problem, trying to engage the churches and the other faith communities in our city to stand up together and to do something about this crisis with homeless women and children in our community. We cannot let this go on any longer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reverend Trickel, for opening our eyes to the situation of homelessness and making community. I'm speechless. I'm not very often speechless, but I think we need to get an amen for that. Can the congregation say amen? Can we, God's children, say amen? You got me all Baptist there for a minute.